Hiya, and welcome back to Dying Light 2. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a patch. We're a touch late. It's Elden Ring. Elden Ring is just ripping me up. Anyways, regardless, ladies and gentlemen, there is a patch, a brand new patch for Dying Light 2. It is the 1.2 patch, and oh my god, there's so much to talk about, so let's get into it. Although a quick TLDR, a lot of fixes overall, and essentially they've retweaked and retooled the melee combat to be better, but still kind of dodgy. Enemies can dodge a lot, so, you know, weight is kind of prevalent, but not as well. Yeah, there's still problems where you're meleeing somebody and they're just Neo from the Matrix, and it's frustrating. But bats are better because there's force generation now, but you know, still, not even close to a ranged weapon. So this is pretty huge. The death loop is completely and utterly eliminated, so well done. That was a big pain for a lot of people, and I believe this is now live on every single console, which is why the video is delayed. Yes, that is why. Not Elden Ring. General co-op fixes, stabilities, numerous progression blockers, all those things, but still co-op is overall improved. A lot of changes there, love to see it. But we have this, Nightrunner tools fixed. Paragliders and grapple hooks are now upgradable, because I guess there wasn't, with some weird cooperative sessions, made it kind of broken in a way, so good to know. But this is where it really heats up. Improved biter behavior during the day. Enemies latch onto players more frequently, which diversifies combat encounters. I've just noticed this to be really annoying because you're trying to hit an enemy and they'll just jump on you. And it's like the most frustrating thing you've ever experienced, and I'm not a big fan, actually. It's quite annoying. Boo. But this is a positive. Blunt weapon damage improved, reflecting a sense of weight. This is basically one of their ways of seemingly making an improvement on the melee combat. Bats are now super good against enemies, maybe even better than blunt weapons. We'll talk about that later in the video. But yes, bats are now really good because they throw enemies around and they also break people's stances seemingly more, or just hold or reflect their weight. Which is cool. Improve enemy reaction depending on the weapon. It better reflects the weight of their weapon. So I think that's what that means is if they're using a heavy spear, it's going to take a long time for them to queue up an attack. Whereas if they're using a tiny blade or a one-handed weapon, they're going to attack quicker. Human opponents now block players' attacks during light hit reaction times. So I think this looks like a buff to opponents. But I do also think that's just because of the weight improvement in the physics. It seems like you actually can punch through a lot of the things. I'll show you guys some gameplay in a minute. It actually, as much as it may seem like they're improving the AI or the enemies, which I didn't think needed improvements, light hit reactions for human enemies have been shortened. I'll be honest, guys, a lot of this stuff doesn't make any sense, but in practice, light hit reactions for human enemies has been shortened. What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, enemies, when you hit them with a light attack, the reaction is now shortened so that they can hit faster? Like, what does this mean in practice? I don't know. We'll get into it in the meantime, but it does look like overall combat has been improved, and you can actually hit people pretty hard, and maybe it's because of this new ragdoll behavior. Essentially, opponents can now ragdoll more often. Ragdoll works more naturally. I don't think this needs to be extrapolated, but it does feel like the weight of your weapons actually hold a lot more weight. And then, of course, nighttime improvements and balances. Howler's range has been increased, which I didn't think we needed in Howlers being more crazy, but sure. Anyways, also, the way volatiles can jump out of hiding spots is now faster, so just overall things are going to become more difficult, as well as level 4 chases are now more difficult overall. Yes. They talk about the dynamic settings, so basically you can turn off certain things in your HUD, which seems like it's pretty nice. Improvements to the final boss, basically just final boss is now easier to play against. His phase 2 works more synergistic with co-op play. It seems like the main focus is that. Outro improvement, balance tweaks. This is pretty huge. High-ranking bows are now easily accessible at the merchants, because there was a lot of things that were happening weird with merchants in the game where they weren't actually giving you the things that you wanted. Certain merchants basically wouldn't restock their shop. They had like a set amount of things, and even when you were at World Tier 8 or 9 or beat the game and got access to unlimited World Tier kind of thing, they didn't change their inventory. So that has been overall fixed, at least for me. So yeah. A lot of technical improvements. I've felt a lot of these. Motion blur adjustment and sharpening they've given me that ability, which was, for whatever reason, away from me for a hot minute. And then there's this, ladies and gentlemen, the Brutal Pack. Okay, first things first, it basically says that now when you're cutting into zombies or humans or anybody, you can be more precise. So when you aim for the neck, you're almost always going to cut off the head, and if an enemy's falling down and you aim at the head, you're going to decapitate them. You can also split them in half. Basically, the gore has been revved up by a lot. Yeah, blood, the gore, basically the blood splatting nonsense is more excessive. And numerous additional bug fixes and quality improvements. Okay, so they threw us a lifeline there. They said that's enough. I will say I wish they would do it better, and this is not a criticism so much as it's just a hope. But there were some things that they tweaked, especially in the combat improvements, but I just don't. I wish you would tell me the outcome of the patch, not the specific thing that you've changed, which I don't know what this means. But maybe I'm a moron. Could be the case, but it is what it is. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let us get into actually jumping in game and playtesting some of these things to see what actually changed and what this patch did in practice, not in complicated, weird words. Goodbye. Alright, so hi ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I did just probably do a voiceover talking about all of the updates. There is so much to cover, so I probably talked to you to death or even just tried to breeze by a lot of them because there's so much. Basically, if we could summarize this all into a nice little bow tie, essentially, they've increased, or they improved, the melee combat. We've tested it already, because we had to redo this video. They've improved it to an amount, but it still doesn't really... I think it's as good as it can get, unless they start adding some cool things that let you like kick people really, really far or something, or have investment strings into things that can help get enemies out of blocking. But it also makes sense if you can put everything together now, it perfectly works. Essentially, if you put mods on weapons that can stun some enemies, you're going to be able to hit enemies more often, detonating your stuns and your fires and your poisons more often, essentially completing the cycle of melee. Still doesn't take away the absolute amazingness of the crossbow or the bows, the ranged weapons in the game. But still, this is one hell of an improvement. Weapons now have force generation, and enemies seemingly can get dropped away quicker. But for whatever reason, this is something that I'm facing. Enemies in my world space are not actually to my level. I'm level 8. I'm in an endgame-ish area, and sure as hell, enemies aren't the same level as me. And I've already beaten the game. I've already reallocated the world tier to my level, but the update might have broken that in a way. Who knows? But I'll let you know that we're fighting enemies at level 6, and we have level 8 in some weapons, so a little bit skewed on that. But yes, the one thing I will say that's just from like a person who was playing this on PC, kind of nightmare life, is that I could never change things like sharpen. So I finally was able to change the things like sharpen. There was a lot of NVIDIA updates and patches and stuff like that, so the synergy around that worked out really well. Also, I've changed this to performance, and I'm having great 60 frames per second. Beforehand, the reason why I don't want to use the first take of this video is because it was lagging like crazy. But also, the game looks a lot more smooth now and feels significantly, at least for me, better. But first things first, look at that. Our hands, our little grubby hands, are now on to the staff. So that was the first thing that cued me into like, okay, I think the developers are well, this can maybe jumping the gun, but I think the developers are significantly more okay with the idea of, this might kill me, with the bows and the certain like overpowered exploit kind of things, like the duplication glitch still isn't patched, they haven't taken away our broomsticks, in fact they just made it look prettier to hold it in actuality. We still sometimes break and start pulling out our hang glider and stuff like that. But alas, ladies and gentlemen, all I wanted to show you guys is people who just swore off melee. It actually has gotten significantly better. In fact, and now I don't think it's even really needed to use brass knuckles. In fact, I think the best, if I could tier the melee weapons, and again, top of the tier is ranged. If I could tier the melee weapons, I think short, blunt weapons are actually going to be the kingpin, because for whatever reason, even though two-handed weapons seemingly are amazing, we're not able to connect all the time with our two-handed weapon, which is quite annoying. But yeah, like an enemy, basically enemies that you're fighting, human enemies at least, have a dodge window, like an invulnerability window, to where when they dodge through your attack, you'll just whiff, and it's super annoying, pretty unrewarding as well. But anyways, I just want to show you guys to the extent in which the melee has been improved, and we're going to show you guys that with a one-handed sharp weapon. We're also going to chuck on a blunt weapon, and then we're just for shits and giggles, I guess, we'll throw on a two-handed bat that has no mods on it. So first things first, let's start with a weapon that's level 6, so it's super under-leveled. Also, the enemies are easier to dodge now, and as you guys can see, they don't block as much. So we were, like, an enemy at that point would have most likely blocked, but they haven't. In fact, I want to see if I can get this guy to block. In fact, I think fast weapons like the one-handed weapons are now sitting pretty, essentially. Especially if you slap on some powerful detonating mods. Yeah. This guy will still always be a nightmare to kill, which we can just do this instead, just to kill him really quick, because yeah. Okay, also we can still block, or perfect guard. Perfect guard seemed easier. Also, why did you curl over? See, that stuff, see, this is started, that's still there, but at least, like, now we finally made contact. Also, I think we got sniped in the back. Archers are still godly in any person's hands, which is annoying. Or bows, I mean. Point being is, like, that enemy, yes, if we were just fighting him, like, the thing that made combat so frustrating in the past was that when you fought an enemy, not only deflecting every attack you have in sequence, but then they ended up punishing you with a quick parry attack. Or they would immediately transition into an unblockable attack, meaning that you basically left the encounter by hitting 3 times. You left the encounter with nothing, and now the enemy's extra angry at you. So then there begs the question: well, how do I play? Do I like perfect parry every enemy that I ever fight? Why don't I just use the bow and shoot him from in the head, because he can't dodge that? Which, thank God, he can't dodge that. If they added that to the game, that would just make things worse. But anyways. Like right now we attack fast enough to where the enemy can't get through. And also, I think they might have mentioned that they increase the lag of enemies using certain weapons. So if you're using a two-handed weapon or a spear, it may actually take you a long time to wind up an attack. Therefore, enemies, if you have a shorter weapon or a tinier weapon, you're able to attack faster than them, winning essentially. Also, we'll just do this, kill you because you're a nightmare. Back to you. Actually, my friend, before we do that, I need to get rid of this son of a bitch right here. Stop it. Okay. Okay, now we can talk. Well, maybe not. I tried to block, it didn't happen. Okay, block, good. Gonna keep blocking. Yeah, no, it still exists. It still exists a little bit, but I've noticed that it's significantly lessened. But that's what I mean. So like an enemy will just block, block, block. So then I'm like, okay, perfect attack or perfect parry, or sorry, charge. So many things. Charge attack. And the thing that is reason why that doesn't work is because by the time you see, okay, he's blocking, I'll do a charge attack, it doesn't matter. An enemy will be like, okay, now I'm going to either, hit you or sidestep or something. So it ends up just not actually working in practice. You can do that still, but eventually with enough of these, the enemies will start blocking or dodging everything. But anyways, even with this level, like this shitty level weapon, we're already able to make some decent ground. So now let's try it again with this. Again, combat's always been easier the more enemies you actually have in front of you, because they don't know which one you're actually aiming for. So you can actually deal pretty good damage, and again, you can block that. I haven't played this game in a long time, that's why I'm not very good at it. I don't remember how most buttons work. Yes, Elden Ring, great game. All I'll say. Come on, this. Get rid of you, lickety split. You'll die from the fall damage, yes. But because bats, basically, ladies and gentlemen, are worth their weight in gold now. Because if they make contact even in the slightest, or if they chew through a block, they'll still chuck an enemy really, really hard. So I think sharp is ideal for zombies, blunt is ideal for human enemies, and specifically short blunt weapons because they attack faster. Yeah, like that enemy we just concussed. Same thing with that enemy. So again, blunt weapons I think are worth their weight in gold. Two-handed blunt weapons are good. They can't attack as fast, so they're less reliable, I find, at least. But yes. Like this guy, he blocked. He's pushing me away, but I can keep pushing back at him and see I concussed him backwards. So I broke his guard, which actually feels pretty good, but my god. Fucking, where's this archer? God damn it. I hate getting, like, yeah, domed in the neck. Also, you can do that, which is pretty cool. We're also built for parkour damage, so... Also, is that how that works? See, he's gonna die from the... Also, every single time you hit something, you actually concuss them even harder. Also, he tapped his foot on there and died. Also, if we just sprint... Oh, come on, I didn't have enough sprint. There we go. Well, let's heal. Heal, heal, heal. But yeah, we have the parkour damage on there, and we didn't kill them even though we ran into them like this. Sometimes you can kill them if they concuss into the background. And again, the only thing that I could say is that, like, to make this even more crazy, we'll reset this once. But this will show you guys that this is where, like, if you take what we just did, where yes, there's still sometimes the thing where if an enemy blocks, they'll keep deflecting you, which your option there is to do a charge attack, or I think maybe kick them would work, but you have to block and then kick. Or you just put a mod on your weapon and keep hitting. So within 3 hits, if you haven't detonated the 50-50 chance, then you might just have to take some damage and then move forward. Again, you're still much better off just playing ranged with a bow and just cranking someone in the head with a leveled up, specifically compound bow. They do higher base damage, so you can just wreck if you're able to hit your shot, of course. It's really hard to miss in this game, especially with bows. But yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, we have one more thing to showcase, just the brass knuckles. They're relatively untouched. They're not that much different, which is a damn shame because they're also blunt type weapons, so you feel, or at least I would feel, like they would be part of the, like, increase to gravity, or what do you call it, ragdoll physics they've improved. So So I think that is in the mix of things. Is there anything else that I wanted to show? Oh, right. I also wanted to show you guys the insanity of an actual leveled up weapon. So this is a leveled up machete that we'll use in a hot minute here, but let's just quickly show you guys the OP nature to brass knuckles. And also, again, ranged weapons, bows are still insane, like very, very good. Also, you can still use that to kick people off the edges, but that's kind of just always been a meta thing. Gravity's always been pretty good in the game. Like, again, doing this. That guy's dead. Like, even if he landed 2 feet, he's dead, you know? But you gotta detonate. Oh, but they do such wide attacks. Man, you see, sometimes, again, you feel like you can't punish, especially those big enemies. Jesus. Also, sometimes with the brass knuckles, it makes it so it's really hard to connect. Can't do that punch. He's dead. So an enemy can't die pretty easy, but it's nothing in comparison to the bows, or let me just heal up real quick, or to this. Dead. One hit. Let me put on my flashlight. You can hit me all you want. Let me hit you once. Dead. Because now he's stunned, and now I can hit him. Also, we'll do this. Pull him out of there. Run over here. Do that. Dead. One hit. These enemies are level 6, and this weapon is very leveled up, so this is excessive. I wish these enemies were higher level. I don't know what happened. I don't know why they went back to 6. They were 8 at some point, but whenever we do make contact, we're able to actually play melee. So now you guys can see that, oh, okay, now the melee's fixed. Because beforehand, you would still get those weird moments where even if you were making contact, you wouldn't actually kill the enemy because they just keep blocking, or your weapon didn't do enough damage, or every time you hit an enemy that's blocking, sometimes it didn't detonate your mod. But now it seems like it very much does. As well as, yeah, you can just sprint at enemies, knock them down, and hit them that way. And of course, the parkour medic gear is just very good because it increases your healing, although you can barely notice the healing. Again, I hope the next thing that they pivot and like balance is the armor, because right now it kind of feels A, weak, and B, soulless. Meaning, like, if there was an armor that increased, like, when you get a kill, it increased your overall damage by 20 when you have all of the armor pieces on for a set amount of time, but it's actually like 20%. Because a lot of times, again, we're getting like 60% more damage, and we're just doing like this much more health or damage. So it's not, something's going wrong, or it's just never meant to be that, it looks like a cap on it somehow, which is not good. Anywho, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the update for Dying Light 2. This is a little bit delayed, especially when I get editing it. But also, to be fair, there was nothing in here that was like additive or etc., stuff like that. All that was here was just made the game operate with seemingly smoother, which was good. Are these enemies level? Yeah, these enemies are level 8, so that's why they're taking like 2 hits to kill, which is normal. But when we detonate a bleed proc, we're just going to be doing even more damage, and yeah, we're going to be wrecking. But we're also still weak, so we still died at 2 hits, because yes, we're not even playing on master or like hard difficulty, so you'd get dropped if you managed to not dodge as much as me. I'm not dodging because I forget really how to. I haven't played the game in a hot minute. Sorry. But ladies and gentlemen, hopefully that clears some things up. If you were worried about the melee combat, it has significantly been improved by the induction of physics being kind of a ragdoll, or weapons which are like bats having greater momentum or greater guard break, so you're able to actually make contact. And when you do make contact, instead of just being deflected 6 times and then being like ran after with a melee weapon and then having to quickly dodge away, and you've rinsed and repeated that 6 times, it gets boring. Instead, now it seems like you can actually keep punishing, or at least keep hitting to the point in which you will detonate your mods. I still don't think the system is perfect. I think the system could be overall massively improved with the induction of like better armors that increase force generation / blunt weapon force, which would count as your kick and hitting enemies with bats. If they added new armor that gave you the ability to hyper stack damage whenever you get a kill. So when you get a kill, everything falls basically. So you get a stupid increase in damage for like 3 seconds or 5 seconds, given what you're doing. Awesome. And then at that point, the only thing that we need is a place that needs us to do damage and hopefully can be reset. I would love if there was like a battle arena that you could grind for like 20 minutes or 10 minutes just by resetting it over and over and over again and getting your payout for money, because that begs the question of why did people want to do the duplication glitch? Because they wanted to get cool gear and all of these things, and if there was an actual synthetic way to get money in the game that was just you farming, enemies and events and etc. This battle arena where you're fighting zombies, enemies, whomever, and you could gain currency that would give induction to, okay, now these builds, these kind of armor pieces that you're now adding that genuinely shape the way you play are now valuable, are now worth something. Whereas right now, I'm terrified to go out and do all of the side quests in the game because there's still not a new game plus, and there's still not anything that I can do after it. So when I'm done eating all this content, what happens when there's nothing left? I'm just stuck in an empty world. So I don't want to do that. I was told that there was like end game content for the game. There isn't, unless you do a certain story choice, and even then, it's not really end game content. But I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, that is in Dying Light. I hope they go in that direction of adding specific armors that fix the combat system itself. So again, giving you an uptick in damage, giving you honestly, I really think force generation is just something that I think would be so fun within the game. Like being able to drop kick someone and have them be sent flying if you're willing to perfect the amount of force generation you actually do. Or even just any way to do like guard break. Maybe you can change your grapple hook into like consistently hitting, and also generating more force, or even just maybe whenever you hit someone with a grapple hook, it plants a bomb. Whatever armor that they want to create, because already things are insane in this game. You could take an arrow and throw an explosive arrow bolt at somebody. So there's plenty of craziness that already exists in the game that's meant to exist outside of like flying on a broom. That's kind of forced to be here. So yeah, there's so much stuff that they can do, and I hope that they do it. But ladies and gentlemen, that was me trying to condense as much as I possibly could. The big old patch. Essentially, the combat works a lot better now. Still not perfect, but works significantly better. Also, you can buy, the vendors seemingly are fixed to where now they sell appropriate level gear. Also, they seem to sell different varieties of gear. I noticed that vendors were kind of hard-locked within what they were giving. I also noticed that there was a slew of PC performance, and I would imagine Xbox and 360, or 360, Xbox One, and all of these new console updates as well. The infinite death bug, I believe, is totally purged at this point. And yes, essentially, the game seems to be in a much better state, so now hopefully we can get into the swing of things where we're actually adding to the overall game, maybe coming in with some new armors, maybe coming in with some cool events. Right now they're doing a parkour event, which I'll be honest, I'm not into it. I haven't even done the parkour things that I want to do, but they're again just stuff that eventually when I do them, they're gone. Also, there's not much of a reason to do all of them. If there was a special like armor piece that was actually good for doing all of them, then that would be an incentive and that would make me want to do it, but there's nothing in the game like that right now. Maybe there will be in the future, we'll see. Here's hoping there's more events and, of course, like I said, more things to add to your overall experience and a reason to experience those things, I guess. Like a battle arena, like a quest system, like a regenerating quest system, something. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you guys do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. And also, we stream a lot of this game. I do have plans to stream this game again and do challenges and stuff like that. But right now, we're in a state of absolute abundance, which is insane with Elden Ring, with Tiny Tina's Wonderland, like really close. So I'm doing my best to make sure I can get to all the games that I wanted to give attention to, and this game is absolutely still on the list, so don't think I'm not going to do that. But anyways, hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for your time. I'll continue to keep you posted. Forgive me if I'm a little late. I'm trying to get all of those content and ideas out. Thank you for being patient with me, and goodbye.